You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, we're going to get started with the Board of Finance budget hearings for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. We are conducting our public hearings for the 24-25 budget, and tonight is the second night of the public hearings. We had Charlie Shelton, one of our members, was connected by phone last night, not able to make connection with him tonight, so unfortunately we'll try to connect with him a little later, but so that's what I was trying to make connection with him. So it'll be the five of us tonight at the board, and tonight we will hear the presentations from different departments and that relate to the Rules and Ordinance Committee, the Administrative Services Committee, and the Ways and Means Committee. And before we get started, I just provide a short overview of the budget request, which in total is $138,163,000, represents a 5.8% increase in expenditures if approved, and it's a $7.5 million increase. That would relate to a amount to be raised from taxation of $119,923,000, and equates to a mill rate at this point of 31.43, or a 1.5 increase in the mill rate, which is a 5% increase. We expect there will be some changes to modify that amount as we walk through the process. The Board of Ed request, which we'll hear on Thursday night, is 4.7%, a big driver of the budget, as well as other capital items. And the town expenditures are in total up 5.8% as far as their requests. The board will meet tonight, and we will also resume our public hearings on Thursday night, and then we will again meet on April 1st and cut the budget and make a recommendation to the RTM. They will go through their committee process, and their full RTM will meet in the 14th of, I believe, the 14th of May, and after which we will meet and set the mill rate along with finalizing any revenues. So with that, we'll start off tonight with the Conservation and Environment Department on page 50. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Heather Wells Sweeney. I'm the chair of the Conservation and Environment Commission of Branford. Some highlights from our spending this past year. This year marked two great collaborations that we started. The first was with the Blackstone Library. They have been expanding their library of things, and we purchased some items to expand that, to bring in some science and natural resource and environmental bent to their kits that they are allowing folks to check out. And we also had a wonderful collaboration with the library and with the Branford Land Trust, in which we had a three-part series. Our expenditure for that was a speaker that talked about raising native seeds, ecotypic seeds. It was well attended, as were the other parts of that. Those are available on the library's website. We continued with the same activities we've been doing for several years of expanding our pollinator pathway gardens at the Early Learning Center at Foot Park, as well as a pollinator pathway garden on the Branford Green. In addition, we gave away plants at the Branford Festival, and we purchased some trees and some shrubs. Our education and outreach are seen mostly at the Branford Festival and Earth Day. We co-hosted an Earth Day fair, which has expanded greatly over the last couple of years. Over a couple dozen vendors and exhibitors were present. We had a display to offer information. We'll be doing the same. this year. And then our education was also in the form of library books that we purchased for all of the public schools in Branford. So for next year's budget, we'll continue with the same activities. The line items will be the same amounts. I mean, the total budget will be the same amount with an exception of a small increase for salary for our clerk who takes our minutes for us. And some of our educational activities will shift to include distributing information about the natural resource inventory, which is about to be completed. So we will have, probably at the Branford Festival, we'll have a display about that. It will be online, but we'll have educational materials and outreach about that.
Great. Okay, the total request is $11,750. Questions from the board?
Thank you.
Questions from RTM members or other members of the public? If not, Heather, thank you.
Thank you all.
Okay, next up is Building Inspection and Enforcement, page 37. Welcome, Tony.
Good evening, everyone.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. So we had a bit of a challenging year this year. Me out with a hip replacement surgery in the spring, and our assistant out with a knee replacement in the fall.
Yeah.
It's been very challenging, but needless to say, we did get through it, and with the thanks of the consulting services line, we were able to pull through. It begins on page 37. We have a 4.7% increase in salaries, which is a contractual obligation. We have a change in longevity. I'm proud to say I've been here going to my 20-year tenure with Branford. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy to reach that maximum amount of longevity. Never thought I would last.
You're doing fine.
Consulting services, we're asking for an additional 20%, which is an increase of $8,000. We are asking for coverage of an additional 182 hours per year. Currently, our consultant works Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 days a week for us, and we are asking for an additional 4 hours per week to keep him on board.
Okay, total request $243,653. Questions from the board on the expenditures? Questions from RTM members or members of the public? Tony, how are revenues doing?
Revenues are quite well. Just ran the report today. We have $503,000 in permit revenue. Going into the fourth quarter, typically we collect an additional $250 to $300K, so we're right on target for meeting our expectations. We seem to have an influx of apartment units going in still. Our largest projects, Parkside, 67 units, is just about completed. We expect that to be occupied in the beginning of April, and the project completed in the beginning of the summer. We have East Main Street, we have 12 units. We have Metro Star with another additional 4 to 4 units going in. And we also have 56 Maple Street, which is the resurrected Anchor Reef project in the Manor's Landing, another 63 units. So this year we are expected to see an increase of 186 total units with apartment buildings.
Wow.
So the trend seems to be 50 years ago it was condos.
Yeah.
Today it's apartments.
Right.
With mixed use residential.
Okay. Thank you. I think
Thank
we're
you.
all set.
Have a good night.
Next is Inland Wetlands and Natural Resources, page 26. Hi, Jamie.
Hello. My
How
name's
are you?
Jamie Frederick. I'm the inland wetland agent. I'm good. How are you?
Welcome.
Thank you. So just to highlight some of the changes, you'll see there's actually a slight decrease in the overall personnel, and that's because the Inland Wetland Associates hours were changed per the union contract from 40 hours to 35. I am requesting some overtime in case there's some additional work that needs to happen on a Friday after the commission meetings, which are on Thursdays. So if the Inland Wetland Associate wants to work a couple extra hours to wrap up something in response to that, and also because sometimes we don't have a work day on Friday, it's a vacation day, so they'll technically end up with over the 35 hours, or have to guess how long our meeting's going to be, which I don't know how to do. And then I'm also requesting a slight increase in the advertising and office supplies. The increase in advertising is kind of large. It's from 1,100 to 2,000. However, we have not increased that line item since at least 2010. And the cost of notice have increased quite a bit. In 2018, a legal notice was about $28, and now it runs us about $55. And the commission has moved from meeting once a month to twice a month, so we're gonna have twice as many legal notices. And then office supplies, just a little jump, again, because we haven't raised that in a while, and inflation and increased mailings.
Okay, so total request is $144,769. Questions from the board? Board? Questions from RTM members or members of the public? I think you're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Planning and Zoning, page 23. Welcome, Harry.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
So actually, Tony and Jamie said a lot of things I'm just going to feed on, basically, and build on. The budget's basically, with a couple of exceptions, flat. Most of the account items. Similar to Jamie, proposing increase in advertising for our legal ads. We've had a situation the last couple of fiscal years, we have to come back and do line item transfers to cover cost of the legal ads, partially because they're going up. Number of applications is another factor as well. So we're proposing to increase that to $6,000 from $4,500. Office supplies, again, similar to Jamie, haven't increased that for years. The cost of things are creeping up, so we're finding that has been a constraint. So we're proposing a very small $100 increase there. And then I'm also proposing part-time help again, building on Tony's comments about influx of multifamily housing projects. We see it a little in different stages at P&Z, rather than just involvement as a building comes in looking for permits. We're looking at the project kind of as a whole as it gets going, monitoring it. Most of the construction projects in multifamily housing, once they get some more involved in construction and proposing changes to the design, many of those things I've been able to approve as staff, but some things either go back to the commission or get further evaluated. So there's a lot of involvement at different stages, a little bit different than Tony's process, but so there are other projects out there that we're juggling that don't necessarily, either not quite in the building permit process yet, like Summit Place Phase 3. We're looking at revised plans that are about to get going, basically. And there's projects that are wrapped up, like Gould Lane, right off the Lamont Lane extension, which is just about done. But there's a lot of work on our side to do to make sure everything's been addressed.
Sure.
So, again, we're getting a lot of development inquiries. That is not really abated at all. We're also facing, because of the hot market, the influx of some much more inexperienced developers. We try to help them out as best we can, but as our time gets tight, we can only do so much of that, and it becomes, again, another strain on staff. And they're, because of our staff turnover over the years, again, to remind you, we've had 5 CEOs over my tenure in the 9 years I've been with the town, and we've had 3 assistant planners. So each of those changes in staffing is a big disruption in the department, understanding what's going on. Of course, in addition to other staff who pitch in, we try to pitch in where we can. Also, the building department, I think, had someone was out for an extended period. Our CEO had been the building clerk, jumped in a little bit. but that only goes so far. So we're really looking for this part-time help. I know it's a tough year, and there's a lot of requests on the table, but I think in our department, this bit of money is going to go a long way in comparison to some other maybe capital projects and so forth. It is personnel costs, but it's also nothing that's going to, you can reevaluate it every year. We can reevaluate it every year whether it's
Sure.
needed or not, but
Okay.
make my pitch, so thank you.
Yes, questions from the board? Request of $400,448. Harry?
How many apartment units are, I guess I would say, in the pipeline?
Funny you should ask. I totaled up what I've got on my plate. In terms of either approved, actually under construction in various phases, we've got about 500.
500?
500. If you're looking at things that have been approved that are basically sitting there, like Atlantic Wharf, which is the redo of the Atlantic Wire property, which has basically been a pile of dirt for a few years now. My understanding is that's getting close to being ready. There was a lawsuit involved, and I think they're hoping to get underway either this construction season or next. That's 200 units in addition. The redevelopment.
Start construction this year?
It's possible. I don't know how. I think there's some other things that need to happen on the property, so I'm not sure that's actually going to happen, other than there's an environmental cleanup part of it that needs to be completed. I'm not sure how far that is gone. We have an applications in right now for a P&Z for 116 units at the former Regal Cinema Complex. We've had conceptual inquiry for construction of 400 units on Commercial Parkway and the road to Walmart on the left side, where I think the shirt factory used to be, Sarah Shirt Factory, people told me. And there's, several other projects where we've had different inquiries. So, I mean, I could bump that number up based on just people that have come across, going to the commission and said, hey, we want to build X number of units. So I don't see it really abating anytime soon, frankly, given the demand for housing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, other questions? Questions from RTM members? Sir?
John Hartwell, District 5. Thank you, Harry. By the way, I wanted to say that my interaction with planning and zoning has been terrific over the last year, so I'm not here in any kind of adversarial role, but I didn't hear, maybe because I'm in the back, how many positions are we talking about in terms of the full-time versus the part-time? There were two numbers there, so didn't quite understand what the number of people was, how many hours, whatever.
Sure, I think the request was for some part-time seasonal help in order to assist the office, but Harry could explain it a little better.
Yeah, there are 4 full-time staff members, and so this would be a part-time 5th person.
So one person is responsible for both of the lines that are on the, I thought I saw 2 lines that had increases.
Oh, the regular, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
That, the top line, the regular wages and salaries, that's for his current full-time staff.
Right.
Slightly higher, because keep in mind, they settle contracts, so there's a couple of years of compounding.
So this is catch-up from the union contracts that we approved?
Yes.
Yeah, there's that, and then there's this
Okay.
additional line item.
And then
separate.
3 lines down, you'll see seasonal part-time, that's the new request for a
Right.
part-time.
And how many hours a week is that part-time?
We figured about 19 hours a week,
So basically half-time.
almost, yeah.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Sure. And there's more detail on page 78 of the budget. It actually breaks down the 4 personnel that you were referring to. Okay, other questions? If not, thank you.
Stay for ZBA.
Stay
as
for
well.
ZBA, that's right. Okay, page 24. Total request of $11,436, increase of $598.
Yeah, there's only 2 line items with increases. One is the board clerk. which I think has gone up the 2% all the other board clerks are
$98.
getting. And we bumped advertising up again here as well for the same reasons talked about before, that Jamie talked about, number of applications and cost of the legal ads themselves.
Okay, questions from this budget? Questions from the RTM members or members of the public? All set? Thanks.
Thank you.
Next up is Water Pollution Control Authority. I think we go to page 65. Welcome, Brian.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The budget itself is pretty flat. I didn't have many increases. Give you a rundown of what's going on in the facility. We just got approved today by the DEP for a septic receiving unit that'll generate a 25% increase of income for our septic trucks that come in every year. So that's a positive. I just got that in the mail today. Jamie got it too. And I did have we lost a few pumps over the last few months with the heavy storms and all, so they're all running right now.
Yep.
But everything's good on that end. I did have on the increase end, the utilities, I had to go up 11% due to cost for gas, electric, and water. I had a 11.1% increase on that. And the pump out service, I had a 33.3% increase. I'm doing work at Dimmel Islands right now. We're going to be taking our loads. The companies take the loads from barge to the inland, and then we have the company take it to our facility. We didn't do that in the past, so that's where you see the increase on that. That's I went up to, I added 15,000 to that to the budget, and everything else seemed to stay flat. I had a 1.4% increase total for the budget.
Yep. Okay, so the total budget request here is $4,879,501, increase of 1.4%. Questions?
No.
Questions? Board? Questions from RTM members? Tracy, come on up.
Thank you. Tracy Everson, 5th District, RTM. We've just heard about all these apartments. Where are we in terms of capacity with our sewage treatment plant?
Every time when we have a permit pull, then we get a feasible study on the flow. We use a particular engineering firm. So actually today I had to go to Central and give more information for a project. So far our capacity at the facility is fine. We're running probably at 60% of capacity on the other end. So we're fine with our capacity with the studies that we had done. AACom is our engineering company that we use for our studies. They set up flow meters, portable flow meters at the pump stations near the areas of the construction before they started, and then they come up with a study on the flow. Mm-hmm. So far we're okay with our studies and everything for the extra apartments and the buildings they mentioned. We're fine.
Okay, thanks. Another question. I also sit on the Coastal Vulnerability Working Group.
Yes.
And we're trying to work with the Water Pollution Control Authority in terms of hardening the plant.
Yes.
How do you do when there's all of these, we've had a lot of rain events that have been astronomical. How does the plant do have you ever come close to being flooded?
The plant's designed for 15.3 MGD on the capacity side. So we came pretty close a couple of times this year. Actually, the UV system that we have to upgrade that the next few years. But we handle our flows. And we're doing a study on the outfall pipe to the receiving waters. We're going through that right now. We're checking that pipe out. So, I mean, we have no trouble. We hit 19 million one time, and we were okay.
That's gallons per minute?
Gallons, MGD, a million gallons per day.
Oh,
and that's
gallons per day.
The pumps all the more running. That's
wow. Okay.
Yeah, and with the UV system they're requiring for us to put in, we'll have another channel to handle over 20 for the disinfection side of the process.
Okay,
so we should be good.
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We never really think about that other end.
Okay, thank you.
All
Other
right.
questions? Okay, Brian, I think you're all set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Good luck.
Brian.
Okay, that's
Oh,
right.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
I'm
yep.
afraid I called.
Capital,
Sorry about
thanks.
that.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. I'm ready to get
Try to sneak out, Brian, huh?
Page 52, 52 to 56 on one of these sheets.
52. Ready to
Are you going to go to 52? Brian?
go. Yes.
The capital section.
Go all the way to the back, there's another section. Oh. 50, I see, yes, okay, capital, sorry about that, yes,
Page 52, I
yes.
think. Starts it, that way we could follow along. Pump stations and generator, transfer switch.
Yes, actually, I just put every year, I try to get 2 generators installed to our pump stations. We have 51 pump stations now, so over time, the ones that are 25 years old and older, we send them, we bring a company in to repair them, but they have a lifetime on them, and then we change them out.
Yep. Okay, then you have sewer line and manhole repair.
Yes. Use, we use Sorelli as one of our companies. We'll change out manholes. There's an area near Sybil, actually. We just purchased 4 sealed manholes, so we don't have any trouble with the I&I issues. We get the heavy rains. So we do use that account pretty much.
Okay. Then the reserve request for sinking fund, 225,000.
Yeah.
The request, and then you got the submersible pumps, rebuilds for 75,000.
Yeah, the increase to 25,000 on that, the resilience study that we're working on now, the pump stations that are near the coastal area, I have to raise the lids up, raise the equipment, because we have to do we end up getting a surveyor out there with the line point of where the equipment has to go, so we have to raise it. So a simple job, I have to add another $10,000 of cost to raise the lids and the covers and the equipment.
Gotcha.
So that's why I increased it to 25.
Okay, and then apparatus fund
Yeah,
contribution,
yeah, that's
for your equipment?
yeah, the equipment, VACON trucks, camera trucks, pickup trucks. Yeah, the larger equipment.
What have you acquired in this fiscal year? What are you
This
planning
fiscal
to
year,
acquire?
I actually have a pickup truck coming next month, and we redid a camera truck over. Actually, the camera truck, we fitted it ourselves. We put everything in ourselves.
Okay. Questions on the capital requests?
Good.
Questions from RTM members? John? What's his name, John?
John Harwell, District 5. Sorry, I'm new at this, so I'm trying to understand the flows
Sure.
in and out. So we've got money going in to use for example, construction maintenance, 50,000 every year. The funding source is the sewer utility fund. And then we have the sewer reserve fund. So what I'm trying to figure out is, we're putting money into the reserve fund, but we're paying for things out of the utility fund. At least that's how I understand it here. So how does that work?
Yeah, well, it kind of dates back to when we worked things out with the state and to make sure that we were appropriately funding the utility itself. And so there's multiple funds that pass through, some from taxation. But Jim, maybe you could explain some of the other funds that...
Yeah, so the sewer utility fund, one of the major revenue sources is $170 per equivalent dwelling unit. And so that basically, some of those dollars also go into the sewer reserve fund. And Joe's correct. Many, many years ago, when the town was under what's called the EPA consent decree, one of the things that they felt that they should do is they should start putting money into a reserve fund so that if there was some problem that needed to be fixed immediately, that they would have access to the funds. They wouldn't have to go through the town appropriating process because those dollars were already there. And then we have used that for some repairs at the plant over the years in combination with bonding. And then back in 2019, we also used some of the sewer assessment fund for that. So it's basically a sinking fund for repairs at the sewer plant and the collection system.
So are these numbers additive, or does one offset the other? So we're putting, what was it, 225,000, I think it was, into the
Sewer reserve fund.
sewer reserve
Yeah.
fund. Does that go off and stay in the sewer reserve fund, and then all these other numbers are things that we are doing in addition? Or does
I'd
one
say
offset the
yes.
other?
Yeah, I would generally say yes as well. Because,
Okay.
yeah.
And if you look at the audit, you'll see the different pockets.
Right.
That really, you know, there's the fund, the different funds that then all support that program.
Right. So I was just trying to figure out if this was additive or if one was offsetting the other, but what you're saying is that these are two separate things, and we need to add up numbers over here for the utility fund
Right.
versus the sewer
The
annual
operating.
fund.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and there's a third aspect, but you know, as you're asking the question, some years ago, I had written a memo on the different sewer funds, so I'll dig that out and send it to you.
Thank you.
I mean, I think, as I'm listening to this, I'm thinking that would probably be
it
helpful.
goes,
So-
yeah, it goes way back.
Yeah.
Just trying to get sort of the lay of the land here,
Yeah,
understand?
no, it's, there's a lot of moving parts, but
Yeah.
the point is that we push 600,000 out from taxation each year to that amount into the utility fund. Then the utility fund has its own revenues, and then there's other capital items that we want to support on an ongoing basis.
Okay, but they are in fact separate. That was my.
Yeah, and this all keeps us into compliance, we really would,
Yeah.
with DEP and EPA, so.
Yeah,
It's,
understood. It's just, again, trying to make sure that I understood that this was in fact an additive thing and not simply
Sure.
offsetting one or the other.
All questions are good.
Good, thank you. Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Frank Toohill, First District, RTM rep. Just wanted to know, there's a decrease in the amount of the fund balance brought forward. I just want to know the reason for that. It's a decrease of 50%. $57,400 less is being brought forward for next fiscal year. What's the reason for that, please?
I don't know, let me see, 67,
Yeah, Frank, that's just you're talking about the fund balance?
For,
That's correct, Jim.
Yeah, that's basically a balancing number. So, in other words, when Brian is estimating his revenues, you know, he's looking at a lot of different things. Joe mentioned the 600,000 transfer in.
Yeah, I see that.
From the general fund. And then any shortfall is basically made up through the fund balance. So the fund balance is really used as the last piece to basically equalize the revenues and expenditures.
Okay, thank you. And would you tell me as to how much is in that right now? How much money do we have in the fund balance, please?
Yeah, let me see if I have it here. Just give me a second.
Sure, take your time, sir.
Yeah. I know it's towards the front of the report. So, in this light, it looks like $3.3 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
all set? Yes, ma'am?
Lisa Waterman, RTM District 1. I'm also new to this, so So just looking, it looks like the sewer utility fees are kind of going down this year, but we've been hearing a lot about all the additional apartments going online. Is there a reason why the taxes will go down versus going up, since there'll be more people in town and more apartments?
Good question. I'll defer to our illustrious finance director.
Oh, I was going to. Basically, they take a snapshot in time. So some of the building that's basically being done, my sense is hasn't necessarily been captured. I know, I don't remember the exact number, but you're somewhere between 17 and 18,000 EDUs, right, Brian?
Yeah, 17,600.
And so basically, when they get their certificate of occupancy, my understanding is then the next cycle comes around.
They'll get added on.
And you collect them.
Yes.
And to a lesser extent, you know, sometimes you have some appeals too. I remember, it was about 2 years ago, Joe, when the EDUs were looked at again, and there are some EDUs that got adjusted, so some organizations actually had lower EDUs. And when I say EDUs, just for the folks at home and the folks are new, is when Branford was basically forced to go to a user fee, we did it based on a formula that was developed by a consultant called equivalent dwelling unit. And so an EDU is kind of like what a household would be. So maybe a business would be like 17 EDUs and your house might be 1 EDU, as an example. And every EDU is the same, okay? As opposed to there are other systems where it's based on water usage during certain months of the year. But Branford did it based on the EDUs, and that was a condition of the consent decree, and that was a condition on us accessing the state of Connecticut's Clean Water Fund, which was a revolving loan and grant fund. Now we don't have any Clean Water Fund obligations outstanding currently because we refunded them a couple of years ago. But so I guess that's a long way of saying is those accounts are looked at, I forget the exact month, but they're looked at a certain time.
Every June. June, I believe we look. Yeah.
June, I was going to say the summertime, but okay. And they get, you know, that data I think also is done in concert with tax and the assessor's office as well to capture all those units.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, because we're hearing from all the different organizations that they're expecting we need more town services to cover more people, but then, you know, like, will we then be hearing in terms of more revenue from having more people? But I guess it sounds like there's offsets in terms of.
Yeah, and if there is more revenue than my earlier comment, there would be less use of that fund balance. Now, if we go back even further, years back, we made a significant draw out of the fund balance, and we stuck it into that reserve fund that Mr. Hartwell was talking about, where the $225,000 goes into it. And that was after a number of years of the EDU fee, because some of the things we were looking at is, well, what might be an appropriate level, what's the fee going to be, and should we start putting this into the reserve fund? And the reserve fund has been used in addition to bonding, in addition to the, like about 4 years ago, we even used some sewer assessment dollars that were left in the sewer assessment fund for that as well. So the sewer has a lot of different, no pun intended, cash flows, and in addition to other flows, obviously. But basically, one of the things that Branford has been impressed upon is because of the consent decree. That took a long time for us to get out from under that. We had to pay some fines and some other things. So I'm probably the only town employee who was here during the consent decree. Yeah. And I also got sent up to Hartford to talk to the folks up there about it. So I hope we never have to relive those days. But so.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for the explanation.
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Jim, and thanks for the question. Other questions? Okay, I think you're good, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Next up is economic development. Page 25. Welcome, Perry and Richard.
You got
Perry Moreska, Economic and Business Development Manager for Branford, and Rich Squigley, who's the Chair of the Economic Development Commission. Our budget, we're looking at $23,550, which is the same as last year. The EDC had originally requested a $36,350 budget, but prudent spending and review with the First Selectman and Finance Director has allowed us to reduce our request down to a 0% increase over last year. Utilizing the experience, channels, and tools that are available to us through Regional Economic Acceleration, the South Central Regional Council of Governments, and Connecticut's Department of Economic and Community Development, we're able to get our initial message about Branford out there. And then utilizing these funds, we're concentrating on the more specific advantages that Branford has to offer. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Water, sewer, gas, electric, and trash pickup in just about every part of town. I was at a meeting earlier today, and another town in the region was talking about this big project, and they don't have sewers. So they've got to analyze how they can make this project happen. And so anyway, I'll just say again, it's an easy sell in this town. It really is. And so anyway, so that's where we are. I don't know if anyone has any questions for us, but
Thank you. The request $23,550. Questions from the board? Gary?
As you mentioned, an easy sell, so what do you have in the pipeline?
some things I can't talk about. Some of the things that Harry Smith had mentioned about something that's coming before P&Z that will take an existing property that is not being used and hopefully make something good out of it. There's a few other apartments that are in there. I thought that one of the things that was mentioned about apartments, I thought that did not get a favorable review, and they were coming back to a different plan in a different section of town. As far as businesses, those are some things that I can't discuss yet, but it's what we've been asking for in certain areas of town. I think the townspeople will be happy and taxpayers will be happy for sure. How about retail? Retail, well, there is a one thing about the center of town, as well as other parts of town. If a store goes empty, it doesn't stay empty for very long. There's from what I understand, a kitchen, specialty kitchen cabinet design company that's coming into the center of town. Restaurants, it's no secret, there's been a few that have closed, but we get them right back again. Somebody comes in. So, and I think it all has to do with Branford's reputation. With all we offer, we still have the lowest tax rate around. So again, I credit everybody that's been doing things for the last dozen or couple dozen years. I've been here since '61, and very proud to call it home.
All right, thank you. Other questions? No. Questions from the RTM members or members of the public? If not, you're all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Okay, next up is probate court, page 21. Increase a request of $17,290. Welcome, Judge.
Thank you for having me tonight, members of the board. As indicated, we're not asking for an increase in the budget. It's the same as last year. I would note, though, that the state probate court administration is talking about merging microfilm and communications, and that would result in one annual invoice, but we don't think it's going to increase the amount of the budget in any way. The only other issue is we need a copier. I've been exploring ways to purchase it this year with our finance director, and I'm hoping we'll be able to do that within the budget constraints we have right now.
Okay.
Any questions?
Questions from the judge? Probate court? Questions from RTM members? Members of the public? Jim?
Yeah, just one thing to add to that is, I was talking with the judge and the staff the other day, and so what we might have to do is adjust some of the line items to accommodate the changes that the state is making.
Okay.
But as the judge pointed out, within the overall budget is fine, but we may have to true up some of the line items now.
Got it. All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next up is Elderly Services, page 44. Welcome,
Hey,
Dagmar. How are you?
I am Dagmar Ridgway. I'm director of the Senior Center, Kennybrook Center. And next to me is Nancy Cohen, who is recently promoted to assistant director, previously our activity coordinator. So,
Welcome.
Nancy, there you go. You wanted us to highlight any changes in the budget. Under our wages and salaries, those are contractual. Under our seasonal and part-time, the biggest change you'll see in there, that's our biggest change, is we had to do a market adjustment on our CDL drivers. And we've had to do that twice recently because unable to recruit. Previously, they were just above minimum wage. The minimum wage went up, and then we had positions vacant in the last fiscal year. And we met with HR and we decided we had to up it to be a little bit competitive, and that may have to go up again as we have vacancies come up. So we had to adjust it several times. And also our security, our night security is at minimum, so we had to raise that up. So that's where the raise comes from that. We're not adding staff, we're just adjusting the salaries as need be. So that's in the salaries. And on our operational side, we went down $100 in our staff development and training. We just recently have hired a new program assistant in the front office. That was filled, that was vacant quite a while. And then also an activity coordinator to replace Nancy's coming on board April 9th, so I'm very excited about that. And then we still have a caseworker position vacant that we are working with HR to try and adjust that salary because it is pretty low. So we hope to get that filled relatively soon because we're popping at the seams. We're getting probably 3 or 4 new people in their 60s and early 70s every day. So we've built a new building and they're coming and we're excited about it. So yeah, there's a lot of good stuff happening at Kennybrook.
Good, good. So the request is $492,940, increase of $40,423. Questions from the board members? Questions from RTM members, members of the public? I think you're all set.
How about the capital side?
Do you have capital?
Our sinking fund for our vehicle replacement schedule.
Okay. I'm not seeing that on page, where am I seeing that?
That's towards the front.
It's on the other, it's on the other capital plan.
Yeah, page 2 of the other,
Okay,
of the
we got
capital.
like 3 sets of numbering going on here. I gotta check them all.
Yeah, we'll
Good
put
thing
them in
I've
a
got
separate
my
binder
helpers.
next year for capital.
I see that, 35,000?
Correct. We just took delivery of 2 new vehicles in the current fiscal year. Last year we had another bus, so we've had replaced all 3 of our buses, and then we start in the next fiscal year replacing our medical cars. And as we replace the medical cars, the current vehicles go into the town fleet.
Gotcha.
So we maintain that sinking fund, so as we move forward, we have monies there to replace the vehicles.
What's the balance in the sinking fund now?
Is it 190? Don't know off the top of my head. 197, is it, Jim? Nope, 116.
116,000?
116,490.
And how much does a bus cost these days?
Oh, it was over 100,000. It was 115, I think. Yeah.
Okay. They have
It went
enough
up
for
a
one
lot.
bus.
Yeah, $115,992 to be exact. But who's counting?
Yeah, yeah. All right, questions on the capital requests? Questions from the audience? All right, thank you. Take
Thank you
care.
so much.
Next is information technology, page 29. Hi, Debbie, welcome.
Hello, thank you. All right, highlights on page 29. In purchase services, there's an increase of nearly 18%, and that's being driven mostly by Microsoft licensing and vendor increases for the software and renewal contracts that we have in place, which is used by different departments. Typically, the increase is between 2 to 5%, and some of the software vendors are getting greedy this year and making increases as much as 330%. Hard to believe, but true. Also in the purchase services, there's an additional Microsoft data center licensing to stay compliant. We need to upgrade. That's $35,000 for 4 licenses on our back-end servers. Additional Office 365 licenses for employees of $26,000. And we need some new wireless access points with the licensing fee is $4,200. In communications, there's an increase of 6%, and that's being reflected by one item with the installation of the new voice over IP telephone system at the police for $10,000 a year. That takes care of the hosting of it in a secure cloud and the maintenance. Software is an increase of just over 50%, and that's due to one item, a request from the engineering department for a software called Street Scan of $8,500, which actually they've been using, I believe, for the last year. And I think maybe it was on a trial or they had it at a discount price, but it's proven itself to be so effective that they want to go ahead and buy the full license.
Okay. So the request for the operating budget is $1,303,936, up 11% by $132,000. Questions on the operating? So could you just give me a little heads up on some of your security systems, user training, and whether or not you use dual authentication?
We are. That's why there's an increase in the licensing to stay compliant with the multi-factor authentication, which we are doing now with the Office 365 licenses. So everybody has to authenticate. It's two-factor authentication for checking on email and when they are remote. Are you talking about security in terms of cyber security? Yeah. We are compliant with that also. We outsource through a vendor right now called Arctic Wolf, and they are monitoring our systems, the whole back end, 7x24, and that is done through a secure tunnel. And it's proven to be very effective. And on top of that, through them, we also have what they call secured manager access, which sends out every weekly, sometimes bi-weekly, little videos on things not to do, and little phishing scam emails, things like this. If you click on this coupon for Dunkin' Donuts, basically you're not compliant. Yeah.
So is it required user training?
It's in our HR manual now, the required training. So yeah, it is. I mean, it's supposed to be signed off on. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Questions? From,
No. Good.
Questions back here?
Here we go.
John Hartwell, RTM5. Just one quick question. In the $100,000 in the reserve repairs and maintenance purchase services, how much of that, if any, is going to be an ongoing cost, or is this much of a one-time increase?
In purchase services? Those are ongoing. Those are for software vendor contracts.
So it'll be this 100,000. We'll see it again next year. The same.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, other questions on the operating side? If not, we'll move to the capital.
Yeah, it's page 13 through 18 in the back capital by department, I think you called it.
Got it. First is your Axon Fleet
Three.
vehicle cam.
Right, so that is for a total of $297,204, or $59,440.80 over 5 years. It's entering a contract with Axon, and that's currently the company who we contract with for the police on-body cameras. And we need to upgrade, well, actually the police need to upgrade the dash cams in their vehicles. They are very aging now. Previously, they were purchased through a company called WatchGuard, who about 6-7 years ago got bought out by Motorola. The police department, the chief, prefers to stick with Axon. The company is far superior to Motorola in terms of their product. They are familiar with the product, and by continuing in the Axon CGIS secure cloud, it's going to make it easier on accessing the data for both the on-body and the dash cams, since they'll be in the same place. So instead of putting more money into the aging Motorola system, which we have to take a decision this year to upgrade, we'd rather go ahead and purchase a product from Axon. And this purchase is through state contract pricing. It's off of NASPO, or now it's called WISCA.
Gotcha. Okay, and then you have desktop computers.
Right, that's also NASPO contract pricing. Hopefully this is the last request for that. We're continuing to replace and upgrade employee desktop computers that cannot be upgraded to Windows 11 because they don't have what's called the TPM, Trusted Platform Module, and Windows 10 is no longer going to be supported after October 2025. And this is off of the Dale State contract.
Okay, then your OpenGov.
So the OpenGov permitting software is a new request for $143,000. The breakdown of that is $72,000 for the implementation, and then it will go into a yearly SaaS, or software as a service fee, of $71,000. So that'll go into my purchase services if approved. And after reviewing nearly every municipality permitting software over the past few years, OpenGov has the features, the functionality that our land department needs to carry out permitting effectively and online. We are one of the few towns that does not have online permitting, even Wallingford. Wallingford, that has no computer systems, is buying OpenGov, and they are implementing it now, okay? OpenGov is in 60 towns in Connecticut. This is on SCROG and CROG contract. And the current software solution we have that we've been using for over 15 years, year after year, continues to fail to give us an online solution. Highly recommend this, and this is something being recommended by all the department heads in the land department.
So you're pushing for that as well as Public Works?
Yeah, so Public Works is $129,000 for that module, and the breakdown is $65,000 for the implementation and $64,000 for the yearly software as a service fee. Public Works today is still generating the majority of their items, their work orders, they're reporting on paper. Not enough is being digitally captured. Having this module, they'll be able to manage work orders in the field through tablets, online, asset management, fleet managing, invoicing, reporting. I believe the module also does connect up with the GIS, and there will be some efficiency with the storm drain. Jamie, was it with the storm drains? The stormwater drains, or that they'll be able to manage as well through it.
They've requested this?
They are requesting this. I have been looking for a solution for the past year for them. And there was one company that we liked. Unfortunately, that company got bought out. And we did several demos with OpenGov. We had several department heads review it, and everyone's been very happy with it.
So the implementation is that extensive? How long does it take to implement something like this?
I mean, it's going to be a couple of months. It depends on how quickly we can get everybody's time and input in the room to get it done. Typically, it can be anywhere from 4 or 5 months to 9, 10, 11 months. And it also depends if we move forward with the permitting software, you know, at the same time having that done. I mean, of course, at OpenGov, they have a large software development team, and they can have 2 teams helping to support us, but we have just one IT department of 3 people, so yeah. It will take time. But the goal is, if this is approved, is to try and get both of these projects done this year.
Okay. Your website rebuild?
Yeah, the website rebuild, I had hoped to have accomplished that already, but we had too many projects this past fiscal year. I'd like to rebuild that, and the majority of Connecticut towns are using a vendor called Civics Plus. That's also on the state contract. It's very fair pricing at $45,000. Our website is completely outdated. We need a refresh to be better cross-compatible with other social media sites, online services, more user-friendly, and for non-technical staff to be able to do updates. And the Civics Plus website just has so many capabilities when it comes to the minutes and agendas and news feeds, things that we don't have on our website right now. So I would really like to go ahead and make that change.
And your variant audio log?
Yeah, so the variant auto log, the phone recording upgrade is at the police station for just over $18,000. And that's something we've had in place for years. And that's a software which logs dispatch calls and links to priority dispatch. And it needs to be upgraded. The server operating system is now outdated on it. And with the upgrade of the new VoIP phone system at the PD, the communication cards in the server need to be updated so it's more compatible. We need to go from analog to digital, basically.
Okay. Okay, questions on the capital requests from the board? Anybody? Questions from RTM members or members of the audience with regards to the capital requests or the operating budget for IT? Okay, Deb, you're all set. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Take care. Next is assessor, page 15. Welcome, Paula.
Hello.
This is your first visit to us.
Yes.
Welcome aboard, as they
Thank you.
say. And you are requesting for operating $530,049, an increase of 7.2%, mostly on the personnel side.
Yeah, most of the increase is contractual increases. There's just 2 line items, and that's just dues and subscriptions and educational component for the continuing ed and certification for employees. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much contractual.
And overtime is up by 15,000.
Yes, as you know, or maybe you don't know, we're going through our reval right now. We've begun. I hope you all got your brochures and data mailers. Yes, yes, okay. If you didn't, let us know. And so that's because of that. It's going to get crazy.
Okay, so questions on the operating budget for assessors?
Just a question on the refi, not the refi, on the assessment.
On the reval?
Yeah,
Yeah.
reval.
Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. What's the time frame for completion?
Well, it'll be for the October 1, 2024 grand list.
Grand list.
We have to sign the grand list by January 1 of 25, or January 31st of 25, so.
25.
So it'll impact our budget process next year.
Yeah.
Okay, questions from RTM members or members of the public? Tracy?
Tracy Everson, RTM 5th District. I know you've had a vacancy, I think, in the assessor's office for quite some time.
Yes.
Do you think it's, I mean, the salary for that position, I think, is something in the $50,000 range. It seems like it's very specialized. Is that something that maybe needs to be looked at in terms of raising that so that you have the qualified personnel that you need?
Well, we're in an unusual position right now. We've actually just posted that position internally because we're facing some impending retirement of one person and medical leave, extended medical leave for another person. So we're all of a sudden we're going to be down, you know. So we decided to post that position now and try to fill it. And then when the person who retired, there may be some switching around, is what I'm saying.
I see.
So right now, that's where we're at because it's it's a lot at one time happening.
It is, and you're new to the role, so
yes.
Yeah, you're kind of feet to the fire here.
Yeah,
unfortunately, and it's such an important department.
Yes, it is. And that's
town.
the reason why, you know, I when we found out about the medical leave, since we had the vacant position, I said, let's try, you know, post and see if there's anybody who wants it, or if we can find anyone, so that way we're sort of set up when the person who has mentioned they are retiring retires, but I think we're going to see that retirement.
Right.
So,
okay.
yeah, so that way, but your point is good. It's
Jamie,
very
you
hard
had
to
some
find
comments?
assessment.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. The position was not vacant due to not, you know, finding a candidate. It actually had not been posted until just recently. So, although it's been vacant, it was not being posted. As Paula mentioned, she elected to post that position now in advance of what's coming up. But those, at the time, it was a decision that was made to not fill that position, and they were planning on, you know, offsetting some of the work with consultant or part-time. But we decided to fill it full-time.
Yeah, at least at this point in time, because we're in this unusual position.
Right, in the middle of a reval and having to hire a new person. So, yeah, okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, other questions? If not, we have a capital request of $75,000, I believe.
Yes, we do. That's a sinking fund to make sure that we have money for the next reval.
What's the contract on this current one?
368,000, I believe. I might be wrong.
368. Is it a statistical or is it?
This is a statistical.
This is a statistical. So what's the cycle? It's
every 5 years.
Every 5 years. For
yes,
statistical.
We're definitely on a 5-year.
And when's the physical?
Next one, because it's once every 10 years.
Once every 10 years. So this is a statistical 368. Okay. Okay. Other questions on the capital or questions from the assessor department? From the board, from the audience? Frank?
Hello. Yeah, I mean, this just caught my eye. I mean, I'm sure that you've already, you know, thought about this, but so if the current cost of the reval is $368, so at the end of all the, you know, what you're asking for is, you know, for the reval sinking fund, you're asking to put away $75,000 a year, but that's only going to equal after 5 years $375, and you know, I know with inflation, you know, it's going to cost over that by then. So,
No, No, you're absolutely right, and Paula has a wide grin on her face because she had the same observation. And again, I said to her, I said, Paula, I said, I think we're going to be fine. I said, the piece that we're missing is that we already have money into the reval reserve fund.
Yep.
And so when we modeled it out, we were looking at a physical, I think it was somewhere in the 800,000-ish range, because the physical is much more expensive than the statistical, because the physical, as the name implies,
Each place has to be inspected.
and you try to get entries, and there's people going out there.
It's a lot more work.
So you have that data collection piece of people in the field,
Yeah.
which is a big cost. And then that aspect, then the statistical kind of works off that once that data is collected. And, this really underscores why we set this fund up probably, I don't know, 19 years ago.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah, because, we didn't want to get whipsawed every budget. So in other words, we have a physical, it's like, oh, we got to come up with 800,000, we got to tax it for this year. It's like, well, wouldn't it make sense if we taxed for a smaller amount over time? Kind of like the old Christmas club days, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of basically why we do that, so.
Yeah.
You're all
Thanks
set,
so
Frank?
much. All set, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Okay, other questions? If not, we'll go to Assessor Board of Appeals, page 16. Request is $20,748.
Yes, and the reason why there's an increase is we will be doubling the size of the board in order to do the revaluation appeals. Last 2019, the last revaluation, there were 383 appeals, but in 2002, there were over 2,000 appeals. So we're saying, that this is the number, but I believe that the board number is set. We're just doubling the size of the board. But there may eventually, we don't know what'll happen with the.
Is that an ordinance change, Jim? Or Jamie? Is that an ordinance change for double the size of the board?
No, we had that we were allowed to bring on 3 alternates just to handle the.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise.
I mean, we've done it in the past, Joe, I don't know.
Yeah. It's very common to have it because it's so much work. I mean, if you're trying to listen to hundreds of appeals and you have 1 month to do them in.
Got it. Okay, questions from the board? Questions from RTM members? Sir.
John Hartwell, RTN 5. Just so we get the scope here, you're talking about hundreds of appeals. How much time does an individual appeal take? And what's the likely outcome? And the reason why I'm asking is because our constituents are going to be the ones who are showing up on the appeals here. So someone came to me and said, tell me about appeals. What's the process? How likely am I to get some justice out of this, depending on how you look at it?
Well, there's a couple steps. The first step is you apply for a hearing, and if when you come in, you tell us, oh, the reason why I'm coming in is I never put that bathroom in that was on that building permit. Okay, we'll go out, we'll check it. You don't even have to go to the board. We will do that. The next step is then, you get your hearing and and they're having them tonight. I was there earlier. You get 15 minutes basically to say why your assessment is incorrect. Not that your taxes are too high, but that your assessment is not correct.
Right.
And it's not something I can predict on. There are people who usually get, an accommodation. It's up to the board if they feel that they've made a valid case.
Statistically, looking at the larger numbers here, 100 people come in with ask for a reconsideration. How many people walk out the door happy? Maybe that's the wrong way to put it.
Honestly,
Maybe I would get something
I
taken
can't
off.
honestly answer that because I've only been here 5 months. If I had been here for the, I mean, I pulled these statistics I asked, the people in my office, help me out. So I really can't. And one of the things that I've learned in other positions, it's up to the board. And you might have one board that says 1 year, oh yeah, this neighborhood was way overassessed. The next year, some more people come in from the neighborhood and they don't say that. So, and you're always going back to the reval years, so.
Okay.
So I can't answer that as to what they'll do, because they are independent.
Yes, all right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, other questions? All right, I think we're all set, Paul. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Okay, next up is tax collector on page 17. Request of $800,975, increase of 5.2%. Welcome, Robert.
Good evening. Great. We'll just hit the highlights here. So we had some large increases. The wages and salaries, that's contractual. Overtime, so increasing the overtime by $5,692. A couple of things on the overtime. The tax office is a little different than some of the other offices where we walk in the door and it's time the bell rings, so to speak. So as the employees are walking in, there's people at the counters already, so we don't have a lot of time to prepare in the morning, and the same thing in the evening time. So when everyone is leaving at 4:30, we still have people at the window making transactions. So that becomes a bit of a problem. In with that, any staffing meetings, we need to do that outside those hours. So that's creating some overtime there. I probably have around 35 meetings, staff meetings in the year or so. So we're trying to accommodate for that. And then there's the projects that we're doing, continue to do in the office. So this coming year, we'll be implementing a all-in-one, hopefully all-in-one tax and sewer billing process. So that's going to take some time. We're continue to do research on a new sewer and tax platform. We're looking at that now, and hopefully make a decision sometime in the 24-25 whether we're going to move or not. And if we do, certainly it's going to require a lot of overtime moving one platform to another. Lockbox, as you know, we moved our lockbox, so we're dealing still with the normal process of exceptions where folks forget to put their coupon in, it gets rejected, and that all comes back to us to be posted by hand. Research, the same thing with Invoice Cloud. Invoice Cloud is our online system. With that, we get rejections from that, and we have to do our research. Checks that are not insufficient funds come back to us. So also, we're looking at implementing and training on hopefully the new sticker system, which would be Moto Pass. That'll allow our taxpayers to go online and request their beach stickers and transfer stickers, and they would get that through the mail. Tax associate training, Munis and QDS balancing, making sure that we're balancing to the system of record for the town with the system of record for the tax office. So that doesn't, that's always a challenge. So we want to make sure in 24-25 everything is up to snuff. We're updating our website. We've already done some updating to that, and as Debbie alluded, it's our website has not been touched for a while, so we're doing that. We're trying to use that as communication. So that would take care of wages and overtime. Any questions on that?
Sure. Questions on the operating side of the tax department? Questions from the public? RTM members?
Joe, just a couple of more highlights just to hit. So you'll see that there's an increase in the bill printing and processing. So again, that's for tax bills that are going out to our taxpayers. Again, what we've done is increase that process of a schedule. And beyond that, if we do the motor pass, we have some dollars in that for mailing out and announcements to individuals. Purchase and services, we increased that by 116%, which is really $350. That's for repairs to the cash vault, office equipment, and our tax validators. Our online services, that's up by 23%. We increased that by $850. Again, that's our skip tracing, Accurate, LexisNexis. Invoice Cloud is our online servicer. I'm anticipating an increase in that in our state motor vehicle department for using the motor vehicle for put-ons and put-offs on the motor vehicles. The postage budget, you can see postage and mailing, that kind of goes together with the billing and processing. So those are the other half of that, and that increase was 22%. For $6,494. The next is the current residential stickers at $2,500. That's a $100 increase. We usually order 13,000 of those. I ordered about 5,000 for now, anticipating going over to a new system, hopefully. And our supplies, again, we do a lot of in-house mailing and demand letters. We do those on a monthly basis. So that's up about 12.6%, about $402. And then our memberships and conferences and meetings, again, a lot of that is the educational side. We should have 3 folks completing their classes in this fiscal year and going for their state testing. As well as the mileage. So that just increased it by $1,929 at a 52% increase. Tax refunds, $429,392. That's down 2.2% with a $9,598 reduction. So I want to ask, what is in the refunds? So refunds are overpayment of taxpayers and mortgage lenders through the lockbox or online payments. Typically, if they're overpaying, they're at the window. We're correcting that right away. Motor vehicle adjustments, where folks come in and they sold the vehicle. They go back to the assessor's office. The assessor does a correction. And remember, you're paying on the motor vehicle, you're paying for that in July, even though it's an October 1. So then what happens, you get billed in July, you no longer have that car, so then they make an adjustment, we come back and we refund that money. Same thing for the real estate appeals process. Leasing companies are the same thing, so basically you're paying the leasing company turns around and pays us, and then there's adjustments on that side. Also, WPCA, we do sewer adjustments and refunds for that. So that is the tax refund. And then outside of what we're looking for a laptop, which Debbie has in hers, along with the hosting for the...
You moved to capital?
Sticker, yeah.
What page is that on?
I don't have a capital page, Joe. That's just outside that we're looking for the IT. I know Debbie had put these, I believe, put them in her budget. Maybe I'm speaking out of turn here.
Is that included in the IT request?
This is for your PC?
Yeah.
Yeah, she has, what, 30,000 for desktop computers?
Laptop.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
She also has technology acquisitions as well, so that's probably where she put it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and just to give you an update on where we are on the collection side of the business, our real estate collections are at 99.04 as of today. Personal properties at 96.94. motor vehicle is at 94.75, and our motor vehicle supplemental is at 89.78, giving us a total collection today of 98.47.
Okay. That's good. Status of some of those rate books that you were updating? Weren't you updating some rate books?
Yeah, so every year we should be having a rate book posted. So that is in here too, Joe. I'm sorry, that's in binding, and I may have missed that. That's $2,500.
Gotcha.
Right, so that's a line item here. So it's binding and advertising, printing, and binding.
Got it. Okay, that's the
All right.
3201.
Yeah, so that's the final rate book that's printed for tax and sewer.
Right, okay. And status of the accounts and delinquencies are under control?
Yeah, I think we have some challenges coming up. We have some large real estate and also personal property that we're working with, and hopefully can bring it to a positive solution. But you know, again, a challenge. But again, we're at that 98%, so we're heading close to the 99, hopefully again this year.
Right, okay. Questions from the board? Jim, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just want to, Bob touched on it briefly, but I wanted to maybe emphasize the point a little more, is that on the tax refunds, a big portion of that is for people that have outstanding appeals going back from earlier years. And, you know, typically, you know, there are fewer of them each year, but the ones that tend to last longer tend to be more hardcore, and those usually result in court cases. And so every year when we look at this, usually it's a combination of myself, Bob, and this year Paula. We would actually look at, you know, what's their value, what's our value, you know, where might we think the difference is, and then if we can at least try to frame that, you know, then how many years of refunds do we owe them? So if it's from a prior fiscal year, it comes out of the tax refunds. Then in the current year, it just reduces revenue. So, and again, that's kind of, so we have less of them, but we have another year of compounding. So that's why the number didn't change that much. So.
Thanks, Jim.
And if you take that refund away, really our cost is about $371,583. If you net that out.
Yeah, no, you own it, so, okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah. Questions? Any questions on the tax department?
I tried.
Okay, I think we're all set, Robert.
Thank you.
Good luck, thank you.
Thanks, Bob.
Next is elections, page 22. Total request $288,287. Welcome.
Thank you. The largest charge, as you can probably see, is the second line item is election workers. We're having a primary coming up, which is part of the current budget, but for next year, quote unquote, in July, we're supposed to have one in August, and of course the presidential election in November. So that includes that, plus the starting this year of early voting. So the one, of course, currently is going to be 4 days, but then in August it should be 7 days, and then there's a 14-day one. So really, those two elections actually jump from 1 day to 8 days, and then 1 day to 15 days. So those are having someone 4 to maybe even 8 people during the presidential election, meaning a place in the community house for 14 days. So of course you get expenses with that. So that's the biggest jump of the budget.
Okay, questions on the elections budget? Anybody? Frank, just hold on a second. Jim?
Yeah, one of the things that is sort of a shift this year from other years is that normally we would budget the primary in the contingency account, and which I'll be talking about later, but basically now it's in the registrar's.
Got it.
budget.
Okay.
So some of that was in the budget, just in another place.
Moved in a different spot. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Toohill?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to know, I mean, I just looked at the back of the book, you know, that's where all the payments are, you know, people get paid this much and that much. I didn't see anything for the part-time, you know, people here for, you know, for you. I mean, so how many people do you think you're going to hire? And also, how much are they going to be paid? What's the hourly rate, please?
For the regular elections, we hire almost up to 130 people for a regular election and a primary. EV, which is early voting, we're going to probably do about 4 for the 4 days coming up. For the next budget year, probably maybe 5 to 6, again, depending on how many people come in. We've been kind of, I wouldn't say dictated, but the statute states that I guess they're looking at like $21.50 an hour for the early voting plate. Now, for the people that we use for the regular elections, that goes anywhere from $275, $300, up to $600 or $700, depending on what the position is.
That's the rate per day?
The pollings, yeah.
Yeah, that's the rate per day?
Yeah. And that's the elections, which is only 1 day. So the early voting is multiple days.
Thank you very much.
Good. Other questions? Okay, all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Human Services, page 69. Welcome.
Hey, Joe.
Hello, Peter.
Some of the changes that we've had that I'm going to talk about are the wages and salaries. We've had also, like in other departments here, the contractual for some of the unions, or the union that did their contract. We had a couple of clinicians leave, so we had some 2 people leave, 2 people came in, and we had to do some salary adjustments for that. Kind of big area is other purchase services, and that's the area that is our medical people. And unfortunately, medical people are somewhat expensive, but we need to have them there. These are our psychiatrists, our medical directors, and our APRNs. The other areas, we have some reductions in there. Probably postage, we reduced it by 50%, which is kind of amazing because we have a recovery management company that's doing our billing, so they send out the invoices, any invoices that they have for our clients.
Okay, so the total expenditures request is $1,985,111, increase of 2.4%, which is $45,612, and offsetting revenues in this fund with actually a reduction from taxation, if I'm looking at it correctly, Mr.
Yep.
Finch?
Yep.
So questions from the board?
No. Okay.
Questions from RTM members or the audience? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a question for Jim. Jim, would you tell me as how much is in the, you know, the Human Services Fund, please?
Sure. And again, this is unaudited as of '23, but it's about $1.3 million.
Okay, and okay, that's my question. Thanks so much.
Yep.
You're all set, Frank? Okay, other questions? Anything else you'd like to share? Mr. Semino?
No, I'm having a wonderful time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, everything's going well? You have a well-run department, agency? And
It is,
Okay.
it is, and we're taking care of
Just
our
giving you
most
the opportunity
compromised people in town here.
Okay. All right, appreciate it, and good luck. Thank you for the good work. You're all set. Next up is East Shore Health District, page 45. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening.
Good evening. Total budget is $397,652, of which $377,840 is the request from East Shore Health District.
Yes, so again, good evening. I could walk you through our budget. So East Shore District Health Department is a regional government agency, and everything's based on per capita and population. The population is based on 2001 census data. There was a problem with 2022 census data, and the state is working it out. So the population was flatlined from last year to this year. Our per capita is set at $13.41, and based on the population, $377,840 is the per capita request. The mosquito control budget, we just manage that program. It's through a state contractor, and we sign off on the invoices, but that funding sits in the town of Branford budget. And then with the regional pump out boat service, it's 5 towns. Each town pays $3,000. It's our request because the state funds the program at 75%. So from last year to this year, the increase is $14,651.
Okay. Questions on East Shore Health?
No.
Questions from RTM members, members of the audience? I think you're all set, Michael.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so take care. Next up is Executive, page 12. Let's see.
All right.
Question, yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah.
All set.
All right, so on the personnel section, for full-time employees, which is myself and executive assistant, there's a 0.9% increase. That's a 2.5% increase for the executive assistant. Board clerks, part-time employees, elected officials, those are the other two selectmen, as well as the seasonal and part-time help, which is the Economic Development Coordinator, as well as the Blight Officer. Those will each receive a 2% increase. So it's $3,729 for a 1.5% increase for personnel. Consulting services is non-personnel. The only major change you'll see is a $10,000 increase under consulting services. Increase that amount in talking with the HR director, Margaret. We're going to be looking at doing a salary survey of a number of positions throughout town. So we wanted to increase that consulting services line item to accommodate that study. And we're in the process of evaluating a couple proposals, but I'm not yet prepared to present the specific proposals, but we feel confident that the consulting service line item of $30,000 will be sufficient to accommodate that request. And then the only other change is just a slight increase of $300 for the Council of Governments.
Okay. So total request, $344,120. Questions from the first selectman on the executive budget?
Yeah, Jamie, the Council on Governments, is that based on our census in terms of population, how they do the fee?
On our fee, yes. Yeah, it's per capita. Yeah. I believe it's roughly about 43 cents.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the board? Questions from RTM members, members of the audience? Okay, Jamie, thank you. Capital, you have any capital requests? Other than-
No capital.
Okay.
And next of legal services?
Next is legal services, page 19. Total request 450,000, no change.
Yeah, no change to either counsel and legal advice as well as expenses and claims and tax appeals. All held flat.
Okay, questions on the legal budget request, 450,000? Questions, Tracy, come on up.
Tracy Everson, RTM 5th District. Where are we on the Crescent Bluff settlement? Has that actually settled?
Yes.
It did settle?
Yep, for the town, yeah, we're settled. We own the road, and that's been closed out.
Oh, okay. And is there some kind of a contractual obligation with the town attorney that is either signed every year or some kind of an agreement that comes before the Board of Selectmen for the employment of the town attorney?
No. The Board of Selectmen a number of years ago actually appointed the law firm of Brenner, Saltzman, Wallman as our town counsel. We received we had a letter of engagement that sets those fees for that, but we did not act on that, I think, in the last few years at least, maybe since initially being appointed. The fees themselves vary depending on the attorney that would be assigned and the type of representation. Writing, as you know, on certain matters, we actually may go to another attorney, which at that even outside of that law firm, there have been a couple instances, and we receive a letter of engagement with the fee schedule. But that is appointed through through the office of the first selectman.
Okay, so it doesn't have to go through any approval process. Thank you.
Okay, other questions? All right, Jamie, thank you on that. Next, we'll move on to legislative, page 11. Lisa?
Thank you. We're on page 11, and the legislative budget request is $18,983, of which personnel is up by $217. That represents stipends for the RTM moderator and 2 clerks at a proposed increase of 2%. And the non-personnel side is flat. Those items are advertising and updating the code book appropriately for ordinances that are changed or put into place by the RTM.
Okay, questions on this budget from the board? Questions from RTM members of the public? Okay, next is, thank you, Lisa. Next we'll move on to town clerk, page 18.
Thank you. And the town clerk budget request is $308,806, of which the personnel side is $279,556, and the non-personnel is $29,250. I've got 3 full-time employees in the town hall union. The employees union was approved, the new contract, which was retro back to July of 2022. So you'll see that, God bless you, the increase of $14,466 represents the 2.5% increase. You'll note that the current retro salary transfers are not yet reflected in the amended FY24 budget numbers, so it looks a little bit skewed. Moving forward to FY25, the contractual increases will remain at 2.5% for FY25 and also FY26. The expanded hours line is increased by $500. For those that don't know what that is, my folks have a 35-hour work week, And the straight time hours, the 5 hours that make up from 35 hours to 40 hours are considered the expanded hours or supplemental hours. They're at straight time. So I budgeted for $500 additional because of the August primary as well as the November general election. Under accumulated sick pay, we typically don't budget for that. However, I do have a seasoned employee with 30 years of service who will be retiring in August. I do have a letter of intent, so we added that line item. She's got $17,000 of unused sick pay, which is a maximum of 70 days per the contract. As a side note, there will also likely be a 5-week unused vacation payout as well. That will later come with a transfer from contingency, right?
Most
Typically?
likely.
Okay. Accrued payroll is 1 day, as directed. On the non-personnel side, it's down $700. I decreased the computer indexing line item by $1,000. We don't have to renew the land record software contract with COT until FY26, so I reduced it by that much, and increased $100 in other purchase services for document shredding, and an increase of $200 in office supplies for the general increases, as well as to cover elections costs of copy paper and labeling for absentee ballots.
Okay. Questions from the town clerk on the budget? Questions from RTM members? Ma'am?
Hi, Mariana Mori, 4th District, RTM. Hi. Lisa and I have talked about this before. I'm just wanting to make sure that what you've got budgeted for advertising for the agenda publishing is enough so that we're not constrained to have to publish only in the Sound under certain circumstances. So that gives us more time to develop a responsive agenda. So.
Yes, so the legal notice advertising line item does allow for a mix of not being able to meet the deadline of the Sound and therefore going to the New Haven Register, which is at a higher rate.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Sure. Other questions or comments? Okay, all set. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
Move
you.
on to debt service, page 53 and 54. Jim, you got principal and interest?
Sure. Yeah, I'll sort of take these together. You know, the principal and interest, the principal piece is dropping a little bit. It's just really a function of the way our maturity schedules are. And the interest is basically flat, although technically it's going down. There is $85,000 in there to offset some of the cost of issuing the debt. We did talk quite a bit back in January about looking at some of the town's overall plan. I made a presentation to this board, and we're looking at possibly issuing up to $28,500,000 in next fiscal year. That amount is not cast in stone. You have to learn a little bit more about the projects in their cash flow. But again, that's what this budget is based on. It's consistent with the plan that we discussed in some detail in terms of the size of the issues, the timing of the issues, the projects, and then some contingency. Again, the plan could change, but obviously if we don't budget for it, it really ties our hands in terms of being able to finance these projects.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Request is for $6,390,000 in principal payments and $2,247,766 in interest payments for a total debt service of $8,637,766. Questions from the board? Questions from RTM members of the audience? Okay, all set. Thanks, Jim. On that, we'll move on to contingency, page 59. Crest is $1,209,109.
Okay, one of the things of note, as I mentioned in the registrar's budget, is that there is no primary budgeted for in contingency. Typically we set some money aside for basically unanticipated events and some that could be anticipated for storms, etc. But I know that I think there's a fair number of Ways and Means Committee members here. I know the Board of Finance is aware of this. One of the things that one of the approaches taken in this year's contingency is that some folks may be aware that we basically have some unsettled contracts, police, dispatchers, and to somewhat of a lesser extent the treatment plant, only because of the years, not a reflection of the value to the town, certainly. And we would normally budget these dollars in the contingency account, and because these contracts have been unsettled for such a long time, those dollars have been compounding. And so the approach that this contingency appropriation takes is kind of a hybrid approach insofar as, the budgetary adjustments that are projected or anticipated are budgeted in a contingency account, but the retro payments are not. So one may say, well, what does that mean, right? So the hope is that those contracts will settle prior to June 30th, and that way the retro will be paid out of fiscal year 24, the current year that we're in. If it isn't, then the approach I would take is to fund the retro and any other major changes that could occur with the contracts out of an appropriation from fund balance in the future, with the understanding that, when we did budget contingency for contracts and they didn't settle, that money either flowed to fund balance or it was used for some other thing. So I think that that's a reasonable approach, and that also is a significant piece of this contingency amount, but not nearly as large as if it included the retros as well. So.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Questions on this $1,209,109 contingency estimate request? Questions? John?
John Hermel, RTN5. We don't need this tonight, Jim, but by the time we get to Ways and Means, could you break that contingency number down a bit so that we got some chunks? See what's...
Yeah, we just have to be careful on the wage piece, though.
Okay. I understand that, but I just
okay. Yes,
want a little more transparency on that number.
No problem.
I know you've got the numbers.
No problem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay. We've met our agenda goals for tonight. I would entertain a motion to recess until Thursday when we will resume the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Moved in second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Let's try.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.